for the chevron weave, there's two different directions that the chevrons can go. They can go with the point toward the belt, or the point away from the belt. And the direction that the chevrons point has to do with which, if you start weaving from the inside or the outside. If you... I think that chevrons away from the ring is a little easier to start with. If you were going to weave inside out, from the inside out, you're going to get chevrons away from the belt. And if you weave from the outside in, you'll get chevrons pointing toward the ring. So outside in is arrow up, inside out is arrow down. Which is maybe a little hard to remember, but in both cases, basically what you're doing is you're splitting your belt in half, and you're doing S-weaves. You're doing an S-weave on one side and then an S-weave on the other side. The S-weave is what gets you any diagonal patterns. Your puzzle piece weave is a modified S-weave, and the only way it's modified is that you've done something fancy at the top. So the basic idea is that you're going to take, again, your two halves of your belt. You're going to do two S-weaves in opposite directions with overlap. Okay, so if I split this in half, I happen to have this lime green in the middle. And I will say also that because I have symmetrical color setup, I'm going to get a pattern where the colors don't switch sides. If you have, if I put this lime green over here on this side somewhere, I would get a stripe of lime green on this side, and then this side, and then this side. It would zigzag. For this over-under, it doesn't really matter which direction you go. What does matter is that you take your half of your belt, and then you're going to start weaving with the strand that is one more strand to the other side. So I've got half my belt, and then my first strand from the other half. And that's the strand I'm going to weave with. So if I'm going to weave to the right for this right half, I'm going to take the first strand to the left of the right half, and I'm going to weave over under from left to right. Yep. Hold that in place. Now you're gonna now we've woven left to right. Now we're gonna weave right to left. I'm gonna weave right to left on the left half with the first strand to the right of the left half. It's a lot of rights and lefts. In my case, I'm taking my lime green that is now not at the end, and I'm gonna go over, under, over, under, over, under, in the left, to the left. Alright, let me pull all this through. So we're gonna have to tighten this up at some point, but this is where we're at now. Now I'm gonna weave left to right again. I'm gonna weave from the middle to the right side. My first strand on the left side of the right half is this black. We're going to weave towards the right. From the center to the right. The next step is to weave from the center to the left, towards the left again. We're basically weaving two alternating S-weaves. Okay. Your last strand, if assuming you went over under, you should end up with one strand finishing over on the right hand side and one strand finishing under on the left hand side. The hardest thing I have found with this is keeping the tension. The thing that I have found with this weave in particular is that if you want to tighten a certain row, pull on the end strand from the row below it, so the row after it. So like if I just wove my third row and I want to tighten my second row, I'm gonna pull real tight on my third row's end strand. This is a point where you probably want some chip clips. Oh no. Okay. I use these guys. Those are the best tools that I have. And what's great is you clamp it on one side and then you weave the other side. There are some issues that come up with this weave a little more often than most other weaves. Namely, that it is both possible to pull too tight and to pull too loose. There's sort of just like the lightning weave, there is a sort of sweet spot. And what I have found is that if I think about it like I am laying the strands down and like deliberately placing them, then I'm more likely to get a good outcome. So I'm not, and I'll see if I can show you this, I'm not necessarily pulling as tight as I can, but I'm nudging these strands into place. Yeah. So sometimes it's definitely, I am definitely pulling, but and I'm careful here when especially because this is macrame and not paracord, it squishes differently. So I like to lay my finger under the macrame cord when I fold it over the end, so that I get more of a flat. What I try to do is manipulate the macrame cord. You'll notice that it has sort of a skinny dimension and a fat dimension. The thick direction needs to be the one that is facing up. And what that does is it evens out the weave a little bit, and it also makes it easier to close the gaps. Weaving so that your pattern goes the other direction, you actually have to weave over under on one side and under over on the other side. So whereas when you weave from the center, you want to go over under in both directions. When you weave from the outside in, you need to go over under from one side toward the middle, and you need to go under over in the other direction.